MiniMax M2.5 and Kimi K2.5 are two of the most hyped open source models right now. But which one actually codes better? I put them through a series of real world coding challenges to find out. So quick mention, I'll be running the same benchmark across the major open source models this year. So Kimi, GLM, MiniMax, and so on and so forth. So if you're into that, like and subscribe. I'll be making those videos and I'm super excited to share them with you. All right, great. So we do have two instances of open code opened right here. To the left, we have MiniMax M2.5, and to the right, we have Kimi K2.5. And as you can see, we have confirmed that this is actually running MiniMax M2.5, and this is running Kimi K2.5. And to the left, we have folders for both of these models. So Kimi and Mini, of course. We're making use of Open Router, so we have our API key connected to Open Code. Works really well. One API key, multiple models, perfect. And I have an Excalibur thing here in case I want to show diagrams and stuff. Okay, so let's get right into it without wasting much of your time. So this is the first prompt, so let's get into it. Okay, so we're done. It took Kimi 4 minutes, 30 seconds to complete the entire thing. And then it took MiniMax 6 minutes, 3 seconds. So let's actually visit the server and see what we have going on. All right, so this is the results from Kimi K2.5, and this is what we have. Really interesting, not particularly great. Mobile responsiveness is much better, but everything else, web is a mess. So we'll get to the verdict later, but this is what we got from Kimi K2.5, and let's see what we got from MiniMax. Oh, shit. Okay, MiniMax is orders of magnitude a lot more impressive than Kimi. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this. I thought Kimi was going to take the crown here, but it's pretty clear we have the winner. MiniMax M2.5 wins the front end battle. It's a simple pricing page, but yeah, mobile responsiveness is also much better. And yeah, MiniMax wins this round, hands down, no competition. So just another quick look at what Kimi K2.5 gave us, and we can see that this is a hot mess. And since we're just working with straight one-shot prompts, we're not going to modify this. This is what we got right off the bat. MiniMax wins this round. So we're going to move on to the next round. So for the next round, it's a very, very simple prompt. We're going to create a drag and drop Kanban board with 3 columns: to do, in progress, done, yada, yada, yada. We've pasted them to our respective agents, and we're going to see what happens. Now, just going back to the first point, it did take MiniMax much longer. It took us 6 minutes, 3 seconds, and it gave us a much better result. I mean, Kimi rounded up faster, but it was absolutely terrible. And I think it used about, okay, obviously it cost much less. So it cost Kimi much less to do this than it did cost MiniMax to do, a terrible job even. So let's move on to phase 2 and just take it from there and keep the momentum going. Okay, so it's choosing to create the Kanban component inside the React app. I think that's fine. So yeah, MiniMax has this thing where it's it freezes in time while the agent is working, and it doesn't give you real-time updates. And I think I also noticed this when because I have MiniMax on my OpenClaw agent, and it sort of has this thing where it's just working. It doesn't tell you what it's doing. I thought it was an OpenClaw specific problem, but I guess it might be a MiniMax specific issue. I'm not entirely sure, but by the time this test is done, and I'll run a couple more tests to figure out what and why that happens. All right, so once again, Kimi K2.5 rounded up in 4 minutes, 45 seconds. So Kimi is leading when it comes to speed. Again, MiniMax still feels like it's frozen in time. I'm not sure if this is because I'm using a single API key at the same time and running the same instance, or running 2 different instances with a single API key. So I'm not entirely sure if that is the issue or bottleneck. But Kimi consistently, for the second time in a row, takes first place when it comes to finishing up the task. As we've also seen, it doesn't mean it does the task particularly better. But okay, so MiniMax had the tool execution aborted, and it took 5 minutes, 33 seconds. Now we are going to attempt to try this again. So to be fair, MiniMax never really started project, right? He hadn't started writing the code. I don't want to see K2.5's version yet. I'm waiting when MiniMax is done, and we're just going to compare them. Okay, MiniMax is done. So let's see what we have. All right, so these are the final results. So the local host with 5173 is MiniMax M2.5, and this is Kimi K2.5. Now let's see if drag and drop works. Also does work, but we can see some weird things happening in the front end with and adding a new card works. K2.5 seems to be consistent with how it positions and where it aligns elements. As you can see, it floats to the left here. The same thing with the pricing page. And the task work, its UI representation for this is much better than Kimi's one, right? Kimi has this, which is fine, but it centralizes everything. However, there's this tiny bug here. Feels like a bug. It's not a huge deal, but everything else seems to work pretty well. Yes, the tasks, they work really well. You can get rid of tasks. You can add new. And you can move them around. So that worked really well. Both models reproduce this relatively well. I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm tilting towards Kimi's version, but MiniMax's version is actually the most practical one because it feels like it's aligned in the center, and then the Kanban board just like it's going to float from left all through to the right. But MiniMax just made preference for a particular, about 25% of the entire screen real estate, which is interesting. And Kimi K2.5 has 0 mobile responsiveness. And MiniMax, well, same thing there. So anyway, so that is test number 2. We're going to move on to test number 3, which is more logical back-end focus. So let's get into that. So this is our third prompt. It's just a simple request to build a REST API for URL short, a node with Express. And that's just what we're giving to our models. All right, so let's see how well they perform. So they both created a URL shortener folder, and they're just like working inside of that directory. So it took Kimi K2.5 1 minute 38 seconds to complete the task, and it took MiniMax 2 minutes 15 seconds to complete the task. Now it only built out the server, and I need to run the test, and I don't want to have to deal with Postman. So I'm just going to ask both of them to build out a front end for this. All right, so this is Kimi's version, simple HTML front end, and this is MiniMax's version. So with Kimi, we get a URL shortener button, and then we can also see the statistics. So we're just going to shorten google.com. Well, for one, our Kimi K2.5 backend code does not seem to be functional. So let's see if MiniMax's version works. They both don't work. Oh, actually, I don't think this server started. Okay, so MiniMax's server is running and it doesn't work. So yeah, so cross error. So one shot in our backend code, the API request we just wrote didn't work out. So we would have to take the errors we've got and send it back to the models to get them to fix that. But we're not gonna do that. We're trying just like one shot in and seeing how far these models can go and how well they're able to give us these results. Backend code, not great. Front end is fine. I think they do front end really well. Backend doesn't seem to be both of their strongest suits. So let's move on to the next prompt. All right, so our next prompt is a CSV analyzer. Create a Python script that reads CSV files of transaction, and outputs total spending category, So we're just gonna send this to our model and get them to build this out. So because I currently do not have an actual CSV file for this, I will get the models to generate a random CSV file with random data and then parse that through the Python script they will be building out. So that's just a heads up. So the results were rather interesting with this one. It took MiniMax 4 minutes 54 seconds to complete the task, and it took Kimi 5 minutes 24 seconds to complete the task. So maybe MiniMax is better at writing Python code than Kimi, because Kimi has been taking the lead when it comes to speed, not necessarily overall quality, but just speed. And yeah, so it wrote the code and then it ran the test, and it says the script works perfectly. And so it ran the test with dummy data, and they both seem to work really well. So I think it's a tie for this one. So let's move on to the next prompt. Now, this is my favorite test because we are building a Remotion component. And if you're not familiar, Remotion is a React library that helps you make motion graphics with code. Like you can make really fun motion graphics with code. I am building a really fun tool that allows you to prompt your way to just like building stuff. So basically the V0 for motion graphics. But we're not talking about that today. I do say it's my favorite test because I have run a handful of tests with different models trying to generate and make Remotion components. And from my testing experience, Claude Opus 4.5, 4.6 tend to make better creative decisions. And I don't think I have run a Remotion test with MiniMax. So this is going to be first time trying it out. So I'm just going to paste these in. So I'm running these inside of a Remotion folder. So like it's a folder that already has Remotion components. So we're just going to run this with Kimi and MiniMax. All right, we're done. It took MiniMax 2 minutes, 26 seconds, and it took Kimi 8 minutes, 7 seconds. I'm not sure why that happened, but let us see the results. So this is Mini's version from MiniMax M2.5. And we have this, pretty straightforward. I think it looks really good. So yeah, these are the types of motion graphics you can do with Remotion, and you can just ignore all of these ones here. And this is Kimi's version. Interesting, same prompts, yeah. So Kimi fucked this up. And this is the second time I'm actually trying Remotion with Kimi K2.5. And it doesn't do a good job with this. And this is the first time I'm trying it out with MiniMax M2.5, and I'm pretty pleased with the result. Like I said, Opus makes the best components. It makes better creative decisions when it comes to working with Remotion. Anyway, that is the results. That is what we get when we one-shot or zero-shot that prompt into a Remotion component, into a Remotion folder to generate a Remotion component. So we're gonna move on to the next prompt. So yes, MiniMax M2.5 is clearly the winner for this section. So this is our next prompt. We're going to insert this into our models and let them get to work. So it took Kimi K2.5 43 seconds to complete this task, and it took MiniMax 1 minute 14 seconds. Honestly, I don't think the timing actually matters as much. Let's test it out and see what we got. Okay, we will start with Kimi's version. It breaks, so it works, but then it's broken. Kimi's version is very inconsistent. I guess, yeah, I think it just lags and it falls apart. Now, MiniMax's version is cool as hell. M2.5 is so cool and it's still working, like the code actually works. And I can click on it and it's just, wow, this is really cool. So we can increase the particle count, gravity, now we make it, oh my. And then we can change the color. Oh, wow. This is so trippy. Yeah, okay. So MiniMax M2.5 is the clear winner without a doubt in this section. Let's move on to the next round. Second to the last prompt is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's a wildcard, build me something cool, right? So let's see what they do based off of, I suppose, the context and what we've been working on so far. This will probably test their creativity and just see how the model thinks. Okay, so we're done. It seems like MiniMax chose to build an impressive synthwave, retrowave scene, while Kimi built an interactive constellation field. Okay, so this is MiniMax's version. It's a synthwave retro space. What's it called again? A synthwave retrowave scene. Okay, so this is a synthwave retrowave scene, and it seems to be fine. It hasn't broken yet, so that's good. This is cool. This is, it's fine. And Kimi built a constellation field. Oh, this is nice. Yeah, this is a lot more creative, I think. And I guess also, it's random, so like they just picked something. But I like what Kimi K2.5 did here. So in my opinion, K2.5 wins this round, but they both did pretty well. I guess because this is just fun and intuitive to me than the synthwave. I'm not able to connect to this as much as I'm able to connect to this for whatever reason. So to that effect, Kimi K2.5 wins this round. We're going to move to the last and final round, which is a very simple bug fixing test. And let's get into that. Then we're going to conclusions and wrap it up. So our final prompt is a debugging test. We're going to give both our models this prompt, this piece of code, and ask it to fix it. Now, I have also included that it builds out a simple HTML page so I can test and confirm the code. And we're just going to send that and see what they do. Okay, so the results are in, and this is MiniMax's version. Doesn't seem to work. When I try to inspect the code, we can see that there's an error here, uncaught type error. So MiniMax did not win this round because there is some bug in the code it wrote. Obviously the JavaScript it wrote, but still buggy, should be able to get it done. Kimi wins this round because the code actually works. And so we can see the top words. And so it also orders them in the order in which they appear in the array. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is the last of the test. Let's get into the conclusion. So after 8 really interesting, really fun tests, we have our results. Final results are in. Overall, I think they're very relatively capable models. And I think like at different points in time, different time of day, you'd get different results from them, especially since the prompts are random. However, MiniMax has the upside because it is very, very cheap and oftentimes faster, and more often than not, it did better than Kimi in the test, especially like creative test. And Kimi is supposed to be really good at making beautiful front ends. So, you know, mixed bag. So my personal preference is also Mini M2.5, but this was an objective test and I wasn't trying to be biased or whatever. Now, I would say for each, if you're building front ends, I think they are both capable models. Back end, you may need to prompt them a bit more to solve whatever bugs will come up. Actually, I'll go with Kimi for building way more sophisticated things and go with MiniMax for perhaps maybe creative things, right? So that is how I will think about it. So if you'd like to run this test by yourself, I'll leave the links in the description to the full prompt and the scoring rubric. All of that will be made available in the description, so go take a look. All right, so thank you for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which models you want to see go head to head, right? I know I will be putting GLM 5 against Kimi K2.5 and then maybe GLM versus MiniMax, right? Just like walking through and testing these models and seeing how well they perform. I will be refining the prompts I use, so we are hitting much deeper and way more precise pain points and pulling the best value out of these models and seeing how they actually perform. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Leave a like, subscribe, more videos like this one, and peace.